Well, hello and welcome to Demos Intuitive Arts Reflections for Real Life. My name is Stephanie. Welcome back if you've been following us. We are so humbled and grateful, and we hope you keep coming back for more. And if this is your first time here, we just know that we are welcoming you here with open arms. This is a channel that is devoted to the work that Demos Intuitive Arts does. We are a collaborative group of people in the creative and wellness industries, and we love to weave creative processes, hands-on, reflective processes, and also looking to art history to help us move forward and create the lives that we truly would like to have, and also bring into the world some more beauty because you carry it within you. I would like to use an artist today named Louise Bourgeois. You may know her by name or have seen her work, or she may be new to you. And I'm going to just start out right out of the gate by showing you a piece of her work and not telling you too much about it. So this is a sculpture, and Louise creates three-dimensional works as well as two-dimensional works, but she's most known for her bigger pieces such as this, and it gives you a sense of the scale. It's really kind of neat how the sun's coming in this afternoon as we're shooting this YouTube. As you're looking at this, I'm very curious to know what you think, because when I first saw her work, I'm not going to lie, I was like horrified. I, for one, don't particularly enjoy spiders, especially when they kind of jump out of nowhere. Um, and when I saw this giant spider that was also all encompassing because you could walk underneath it, it's so huge. I was not just sort of taken aback, but also kind of wondering what the heck it was all about. Like so much artwork in the modern era, it lends itself to personal reflection, and we carry with us our experiences. Well, this particular piece is called Maman. And Louise Bourgeois actually said that she created this spider and the other spider sculptures to honor her mother. And she called them mother. And when I learned that, it was like, wow, that's very, very different perspective. And I wanted to learn more. So here we are a week after Mother's Day. And I'm showing you a picture of a very, very giant spider sculpture, which is pretty ominous. Before we go on to talk a little bit more about that work and why it's called Mother, I wanted to tell you a little bit about Louise Bourgeois, because, like so many artists that I like to use, and I don't always use just female artists, but being a female myself, I honor those who've come before me and know how challenging it has been to get noticed in the art world. Well, Louise Bourgeois had a long life as a creative, and she got to be known when she was really in her 70s, when the Museum of Modern Art in New York City gave her her own retrospective. And so picture, here she had worked pretty much her whole entire adult life creating things, and she was honored by one of the most prestigious modern art museums in the world by having a retrospective. And a retrospective is very, very important to an artist because it's the recognition for your life's work. And she went on to have many, many more years of successful creativity. A little background for who she was and how she grew up. Her mom was a weaver. So her mom too was a creative, and I'm sure that inspired Louise greatly. And her mom created tapestries, and Louise, as a child, spent many, many hours watching her mother patiently restoring damaged threads on tapestries because she was a weaver. Louise went on to describe her mom as someone who was careful, intelligent, protective, and quietly strong. And so when she started to develop her own path in creative art pieces, she saw the spider as embracing and encompassing a lot of those same qualities as her mom. And she never thought spiders were threatening and frightening, but she saw them as resilient creatures. And so it gives us pause to think about how we influence people around us, particularly young ones. They watch and see everything we do and take note of that. And their perspective and perception of us is oftentimes not exactly what we would normally think. When you understand all of that behind how Louise perceived her mom, this sculpture may actually start to look a little bit different to your eye. So, not quite as ominous or scary, huh? As when you first possibly took a look at it. I now bringing that element of information into viewing it, I can see what Louise was thinking. She was looking at the spider as somebody who is a protector and a builder and a guardian. I love how this giant spider sculpture is on these teeny tiny, they look teeny tiny little points on its feet. It almost looks like it should topple over. And yet, if you were underneath it, you feel very, very protected. Um, this structure is a very safe structure. And so she wanted to also embrace that with her mom, she always felt her mom was this place and space of great safety. So not something to be intimidated by, but just really, really supported. Louise Bourgeois also said that I love this quote. I've been to hell and back, and let me tell you, it was wonderful. And I've read that quote so many times, and there's so many different directions to take that meaning. Life can feel very hellish. The longer you live, the more challenges you've been through. And sometimes those challenges really feel like you are what we have come to envision in our own way of what hell looks like. But when you think about it from the perspective of a creative, being in a hellish environment and then overcoming it and coming out stronger for it, you realize that you can be living in a creative heaven like life because you've been to hell. And that is a wonderful, wonderful experience because you can see it with eyes wide open the way she did. The other thing I love about looking at Louise Bourgeois' work is that she came to be known later in life, really known and recognized, I should say, more than just known. And what that teaches us is that it's really never too late. I've been blessed with some extraordinary people in my life who have taught me as parents um, and grandparents and elders, more senior people in my life, mentors, that it's never too late to begin something new. And it's never too late to be sidelined and just shrink into the background. Any stage of your life is the perfect time to move forward. And if you are a younger person, please know, don't wait till you're much older. You have so many things to learn and grow from and experiences to have. And so, no matter what age or stage of life you're at, it's never too late. Your strength is always visible when you let people see it. Um, and it doesn't get lost on many of us how hard you work, the long hours you work at it, whether it's at a job or caregiving in the home for young ones or caregiving for seniors who you care so much about. You just keep going even though you're tired. And Louise Bourgeois' work actually reminds me of all of that. So not just me thinking about the people in my life, this is the time where I ask you to self reflect. Have there been people in your life who've embodied that kind of strength? Okay, so at first you might see that strength as maybe intimidating, like that spider, or a little scary, overwhelming. But you've come to realize that maybe that's a very special kind of strength. They show up, they've protected, they've provided the stability, like Louise Bourgeois looked at her mother and her story and her history with her mom. I imagine that many of you can think of at least one or more people who are like that too. And someone whose very presence in your life and the world has made you and the world a little bit more of a secure place. Here's the important part. At some point in our lives, we are also called upon to become that very person. We're called upon to hold the structure. We're called upon to create the safety for others. And sometimes we have to actually really pull it together and create that safe space for ourselves. So today, maybe I would like to inspire you a little bit by this, what might have seemed like a pretty scary thing to begin with. And now you're seeing all of the magnificent, empowering parts, that you ask yourself, where in your life are you able to be called upon for your strength? And what does strength look like to you, for you right now? What does that look like? Is it physical strength, emotional strength, intellectual strength? And how does that come through? Sometimes strength can also be in its silence. And maybe even think about those people who have modeled that strength in your life to feel really inspired and reflective about what you learned from them in your life. So hopefully this helped you think a little bit more deeply. Again, it's the week after Mother's Day, and what better juxtaposition than a beautiful Mary Cassatt painting with a maternal person holding a young child and a spider. And both kind of embrace this idea of the inner strength of caregiving and recognizing how important all of that is in our lives to build ourselves up and everyone else in our world. Thank you so much for showing up. If you are liking what you're hearing and seeing, please do not hesitate to like, subscribe, check out our website, follow us on social media, and also please leave your comments, because you are just as important to us as hopefully we become to you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.